chair with you, Mr. Wing.
I'm from the Ministry of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare. I deal with labour relations issues. I think the workers' struggle continues. The challenges that workers continue to face are probably those that are faced by workers elsewhere. But our aim as a ministry is to try and find ways of improving, especially not only their welfare, but their relationship with their employers, so that they can find ways of negotiating for better working conditions with their employers.
Goodwill, what does the day represent to you as a teacher, as someone who represents teachers?
Yes, I have no illusions of my role. My role is basically to represent the interests of the teachers, obviously, which have to do mainly with their salaries. Both salaries then resolve all other facets of life. And also my role is to make sure that we protect the rights of the teachers as they are at the workplace, and also to safeguard the gains that we might have had since the formation of trade unions in Zimbabwe and indeed the world over.
Last?
Yes, for us as trade unions, it's a day where we reflect on the past years. What have we gained for the workers? Have we managed to protect the workers? Is there decent work for the workers? Wages, are they getting a fair wage? And so forth. So it's a day to reflect, sit and talk to the workers, also to get also their feedback, whether we are also doing well or we are not doing well, and what are the issues at their heart.
Obvious. I'll stop right there with you. What does Workers' Day mean for you?
No, thank you very much. Us from the University of Zimbabwe, particularly the academic section, it is a day that we used to write about in the abstracts and proposals, but it's a day that we never would really have thought we would deal with it the way we are doing it this year, particularly that we've got to be actually at the heart of the struggle of the workers commonly. Normally, academics are sometimes quite divorced from the ordinary workers, and that is probably what we've been all along. But this year, it's a different Workers' Day. It's a Workers' Day where we are actually at the heart of the struggle and in the midst of actually a very long and protracted struggle.
Now, I'm sure someone would want to understand. You talk of a struggle, a long struggle, and you're in the midst of it. What is the struggle? What are you fighting for?
Thank you very much. At the University of Zimbabwe, currently, the University of Zimbabwe academics are on strike, which is lawful and constitutional strike. We are not teaching since the 16th of April 2025 until our demands are met. And our demands are that we need a restoration of our salaries from where they were in October 2018. And in October 2018, a junior lecturer used to take home 2,250. But currently, a University of Zimbabwe employee in the academic and non-academic or anyone gets 230 USD plus a little bit of some component of the Zim dollar, the ZIG, which is really not enough at all. And that is why we are busy in the streets.
Now, we're talking about the welfare of people. We're talking about the welfare of workers and of teachers. As the ministry, have you heard about these complaints? Have you heard about them, and have you addressed them in the best way that you can?
Yes, we have. We've had many meetings with the university staff. 3 or so meetings with the university staff and the teachers and their representatives. I think the main aim of our intervention in this matter has been to try and find a platform for them to discuss their own issues. In this country, we are not there to intervene as government every time people are discussing their own issues concerning wages and salaries or conditions of service in general. We allow a bipartite setup in which the employer and their representatives and the employees and their representatives sit to discuss their issues. We have tried to facilitate that effort, and we believe our efforts maybe failed once or twice, and we believe there's still room for them to sit down and discuss their issues of their welfare on their own without interference from anybody else. What we have tried to do is to try and stop any conflict that has arisen the way it has, to to try and maybe find an amicable solution that allows them to create a platform for them to negotiate, like they do in national employment councils. These are bipartite setups where in each sector, which in this case is the universities as a sector, they discuss their own issues and come up with amicable solutions. And I believe an opportunity still remains for them to do so.
That then would lead me to ask obvious, has the employer been open and have they tried to come to you and talk about it? Because like he said, it might have failed once or twice. What's this position at the current moment?
No, thank you very much for that question. Actually, the employer has not been forthcoming. Of course, we are quite grateful for the intervention or for the efforts that were made by the Ministry of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare. We have been to their office. And in fact, the minister himself actually had to meet with us and we discussed quite a number of issues. But the employer is not quite forthcoming. We have written a lot of memos, letters to the employer seeking dialogue. To date, we have written more than 37 memos to the employer since 2018, and the employer responded to only 2. We went to the Ministry of Labour, we went through the process of conciliation, and on the 10th of January, we got a certificate of no settlement. We wrote to the employer and said, although we have got this certificate of no settlement, we are still open to negotiations. Let us negotiate, let us talk. They never said anything. They didn't want to talk to us. We gave a notice for industrial action. They, of course, went to the minister and applied for a show cause order. Of course, we were invited to the minister. We presented ourselves. The minister, of course, issued a show cause order in favor of the university. We did not go on strike. We stopped, and we then redrafted or retraced our journey. Then we had to invite again the Ministry of Labour, Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare to do help us correct the application or the application for the intended collective job action. Everything happened until when we finally realized that the employer is not moving, and we issued notice for the strike, which was starting on the 16th of April 2025. Then, of course, the strike would include picketing, and we informed relevant offices about our picketing. Unfortunately, we suspect our employer is, of course, who has never been forthcoming, invited or called the police to arrest and harass us.
There's been a back and forth situation, so it seems. But then again, that has not only been the only sector that has been affected by, like you said, low wages and demands that are not being met. I understand within the trading aspect as well, we have an 80% informal market, so to speak. 80% of the population you might claim are informally employed. They are just, what we call them, hustling. They're out there just trying to make sure something happens. Now, in an economy where there is no social security, no minimum wage, no legal protections, and someone is just out in the street doing what they can to survive, how is the ZCTU positioning itself to represent and protect the rights of the informal workers who may not fall under union coverage in a way?
We also have an affiliate which is also in the informal sector, which also looks at the rights of the workers in the informal sector. But more importantly, I think ZCTU has been part and parcel of the formalization strategy with the government. So we've been working with the government on the formalization strategy so that we take care of those who are working in the informal sector. I think you must have heard that there is an attempt even to come up with insurance, with medical aid for the people in the informal sector. So I think we've been very actively working with the government in that area.
Now, how then do you think someone in the informal sector, I'm going to talk about the ordinary vendor in the street, Blawayo, Harare, everywhere where we have vendors, they're being harassed by police, they're being harassed by council police when they are selling their wares. Do you think those people will be open to discussing medical aid issues when they are not being protected while they sell their wares?
I think it's we move bit by bit. It's not easy. I agree with you, but we will try by all means to persuade them. if people get the benefits, if they understand the benefits of having a medical aid, they will eventually join. And I think it's very possible.
You say that you are engaging those people. What are the initiatives you're taking to do that, to ensure that people do come and they join, the initiatives that you want to launch for them and make them interested in seeing the benefits that they do carry?
I think the most important thing is to make sure that they are organized, right? Where they join associations, it's easier to organize them that way. That's why we also formed an association, the Zimbabwe Chamber of Informal Economy Association, so that if they join them, it's now easier now to organize them.
Now, Workers' Day 2025 comes at a time when we've experienced a huge migration of our skilled workers to different parts of the world. We're talking about our doctors, our engineers, our teachers, all who are going to look for greener pastures. What do you think needs to be done in the respective sectors that you're in to ensure that we plug this brain drain? I'll start with you, Goodwill.
Thank you very much. I think what needs to be done is obvious. Employment creation first and foremost, and then we deal with them under the decent work agenda, issues to do with their salaries, to make sure that they earn a living. Because what makes people then decide to go away is because they cannot pay for their own insurance, they cannot pay for their children's school fees, let alone their rentals, utility bills, ZESA, water, you name it. And because of that, people then have options open to them, some of which is to go out of the nation and develop other nations, while our own nation is not developing at all. So it is critical. Once we pay, once the salaries are adequate enough to cover those basics, then we have arrested everything. No one will dare go outside, because the treatments that they get when they are out there are not in sync with decent work agendas.
Now, obviously, how many of our academia have we lost to the other side of the world?
Well, thanks so much. So many have left, particularly the University of Zimbabwe, since about 2018, when the salaries were drastically reduced to the 230 that I talked about. But it's not just about salaries. Yes, at the moment we are talking about salary. Salary is a very important component to retain labor. But at the University of Zimbabwe, it's more than even salary. It has to do with other conditions, the environment itself, where you can be able to freely express yourself and even research. Unfortunately, at the University of Zimbabwe, an academic is not free to do so, because the administration at the university currently will not allow or tolerate free thinking or independent thinking. When you are seated in a conference, there could be security personnel who are in civilian clothes who sit there, and they can stop the conference right away. In the midst of a conference, they can stop it, because you'd have said one or two things that probably the authorities would not want to hear. But we are a university. We should be free. We should really be free to express ourselves. And also, the University of Zimbabwe administration at the moment would tell you openly that there are 5 gates. You can choose whichever you want to live. They're encouraging, actually, people to leave the university, which is quite unpatriotic from my perspective. This is also why you have realized, I think the nation was alarmed. It's unfortunate, I think not many journalists realized that there was something important for the news. The University of Zimbabwe advertised early this year almost 200 posts. Where have you seen such a thing happening? Are we opening 3 new universities? How can you advertise more than 100 and something posts? Because people are leaving. People are leaving, yes, because of the salaries. Now people are leaving to some destinations in the regions which we never would consider to go to. There are some destinations where an academic, a professor would get 2,500 USD. People are leaving, going to such destinations. But previously, we never would go to such destinations at all. And that is why from about 2012, 13, quite a number of academics were coming back into the country. I was out of the country. I was in Germany doing my studies, and of course I got some offers elsewhere in Canada, Austria, something like that, but I decided to come back home because we were getting a salary of something like 2.8 take home. I came home, but in the region, even some were getting 3,000 something. If you would go, for example, to Botswana, maybe you get 3,200. But we decided never to leave to Botswana for 3,200. You'd choose 2,800, but you are home and the environment was quite friendly. But at the moment, the salary, yes, is a big issue, but also the environment in which we find ourselves is really bad.
Now, different issues that are being raised in the different sectors that you do reside in. From the trade union's perspective, have you seen a brain drain of some sort happening?
Oh, there's massive brain drain. Almost every sector, even security guards are also leaving because they get better pay in the regions. So it's an issue that we are also grappling with. We are also saying, even if they are going there, are they also getting decent wages, decent work? So we are also making an initiative as a region, as a SADC, to ensure that decent work is also extended to those people, our people who are also going there. So we are also in talks with our regional trade unions like COSATU, for instance, where we will look at the conditions of work in those regions for our people who are going there.
Now, it is a good thing that we do have a ministry representative among us today. You have heard the challenges that they've cited. What are you doing as a government to ensure that you plug the brain drain? There has been talks of wages, the salaries, and then now talks of an unfavorable environment for people to operate or work in. What's your address, or what's your response to that?
We continue to believe employers and employees can be encouraged to come out with very fair, competitive salaries and wages. We believe that, and we honestly believe collective bargaining, which is free for all parties, works in this country. However, we also believe that we cannot stop migration. It has been happening for many years, but also maybe the pace at which it's happening now has forced us to find ourselves addressing what is called labor migration. We now have, as a government, a labor migration policy which is in place to protect those who are going out and those who are already working out. For example, the last issue that we are dealing with very strongly is about protecting the people's social security benefits, which they will have earned while they are there. Botswana has come good for us. People who work in Botswana, their terminal benefits are paid even if they have left Botswana. It's a good start. We have sent 150 workers to Rwanda in an agreement between the government of Rwanda and the government of Zimbabwe. We believe that it's one of the most well-celebrated labor migration policy frameworks, which when we did, we believed that our people would be paid much better. We have better working conditions, but we want to have a safe and regular migration for all our people. For example, we know what's going on in South Africa. Sometimes they are kicked out and the benefits which they will have worked for, they are not paid. So we want to be able to protect that, and the negotiations will continue, and we are continuing to do that for them. Recently, we planned, and we are going to meet our Rwandese counterparts so that we can see how social security can be meshed between the Rwanda side, and people there who are from Zimbabwe can contribute to our NASA and to our pension benefits in the government. And I think it's working. We are going to try and extend our MOUs to countries like Qatar. Belarus is looking for drivers and other workers. We need to chase those kind of MOUs with them as a government to be able to protect our people even as they go out, so that they don't just jump for anything. We've seen what has happened to our ladies when they went to Yemen, and some who went to some Middle East countries. They were not treated quite well, but they thought it was a marvel to go to those countries. They would get better working conditions, but things didn't work out. Most countries in Africa are beginning to have MOUs with different countries. Saudi Arabia, we need to also discuss issues with the British and maybe the Australians and Canada to see to what extent we can protect our people as they come out, so that they're not taken advantage by these fly-by-night employment agencies. We really need to do that, and our efforts, I'm sure, will yield fruit.
Now, Ofisani, you talk about protecting the workers outside of the country, but then there have been some complaints that you are not really protecting the workers within the country. I'm talking about the pensioners. Can you just address that issue in regards to how much the pensioners are getting? 45 years of service with money being paid to NASA each and every month, but then someone is taking home a meager $20 a month. in pension fund?
We have called out to NASA to make what is called, they make evaluations of their pension scheme and see whether they could pay more. And our minister is on record as having asked NASA to look into that, and we believe something could be done. The government is already resolved to increase the pensions for public servants, and I believe something is being done. But then again, it doesn't stop. We continue to do it because our challenges are not just based on the pensions, it's about the economy. If we make the economy grow and the economy becomes stronger and stable, some of those things will be resolved.
Now, still on that same tangent of protection, trade unions were established, correct me if I'm wrong, to protect and advocate for workers' rights, to make sure that they're safe, their voices are heard. But of late, most people, young people that are now entering into the formal economy, claim that trade unions are not really doing the mandate or fulfilling the mandate that they claim to have done so. Henceforth, you do not really see many people joining those trade unions. What are you doing to restore confidence in the young people or in the people that really do not really believe that you're still serving the mandate that you're supposed to?
I think what we have done is to make sure that young people are included in the governance structure of trade unions. We have created what we call young workers, right? And we have made sure that even all trade union constitutions, all our affiliates, they also have a place for young workers, so that they don't just talk while they are out. They must come into the structures, so they decide for themselves what they need, what they want to see happen in trade unions and in the workplace. So we have made it very easier for them to join trade unions, not only join trade unions, even to take up leadership positions in trade unions, to encourage them to be part and parcel of the movement.
But then, are they taking it up?
Yes, our president is a young worker.
Okay.
So you can see we have young people in our structures.
Now, there are reports of oppressive practices in certain industries that are within the country, the mining, for example. When I say oppressive, people are really not working under good conditions. Where you'd expect a worker and an employer to sit down and talk about certain things, there have been incidences where guns have been pulled out and aggressive force has been used. What is your comment on this? Why are you not protecting those workers? Are they not workers as well?
We protect them.
How so?
What we do normally, we take up their issues. We have problems, particularly I can mention with the Chinese, for instance, where we have had a lot of people being victimized, underpaid, and so forth. ZCTU sits at the tripartite negotiating forum. That's where we take our issues, where we sit with employers, government, and also other trade unions in the civil service. That's where we take up those issues and raise those issues. And sometimes we are called in even to visit some of the areas where such things happen. So we are taking action against them.
Last, why does it sound like it's almost all dialogue and not really action on the ground?
What do you mean? You want us to go on strike?
No, I'm not saying go and strike, but then if you say you talk about something,
Yes.
you would expect some action to be implemented.
Yes.
But then the same thing happens over and over again. So where really is the implementation? That's my question.
The implementation is there at affiliate level, right? ZC2 sits at the national level. We instruct our unions to take those employers to the courts.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, as the ministry, you've heard about it. What's
Yeah,
your comment?
Well, there's been so many bad news concerning employers within the mining sector. Government last year initiated what is called the responsible mining audit, in which we sent teams around the country to look into the conditions of mining industries, the conditions for workers, the working conditions. We found that out of 600 and something companies, more than half are not complying with regulations. Some have been closed, some have been prosecuted, and we believe we'll continue to dialogue with either Chinese or whoever the investors within the mining sector. It has been really bad, especially on our social media, when people have been shot, some injured, some killed. I've read that. But what we have done is we've planned to go right around the country, and we are going to get the funding for it. I'm still doing that with my team. we need to be able to engage the Chinese. It's not about the Chinese, I've often said that. It's about the employers within the mining sector. There are very good Chinese employers who are following procedures, who really follow the rules for fair wages and health and safety issues. But there are some Chinese who either don't know or deliberately float regulations. We believe if we go through a process of engagement, discussing these issues on the ground, like you are saying, we need to be on the ground. We should be able to come to some levels of compromise that gives decency to our workers in the mining sector.
Now, outside of mining, the teaching sector is also facing problems of their own. We're talking about overcrowded classrooms, lack of teachers, demotivated teachers that are going into the classrooms. And these challenges have led to the quality of education being affected. The students themselves really do not feel they are learning something. If you were to ask them, they'll tell you maybe our teacher is rushing us through a syllabus. All these stemming from challenges that they are facing on the side. How effective has ZIMTA and other teacher organizations been in engaging the government to improve working conditions? And is collective bargaining still working in this regard?
Okay, thank you very much. There are a myriad of things that need to be put in place, particularly in the education sector. You then notice that government has a policy where we have the basic education module, where the Minister of Finance budgets every year, but that money never lands at the schools, and that affects the education system in a very big way. We also have a lot of overcrowding in schools. Talk about farming areas, mining areas, and even in urban setups. You also notice that particularly the government schools, because there is a policy where learners should not be turned back home. Learners are so many that the teachers are fewer. We were talking about taking teachers to Rwanda, but we have classes that have over 50, 60 learners in a classroom. But as an organization, ZIMTA is an affiliate of a federation which is called Federation of Educators Union in Zimbabwe. And in turn, that federation affiliates to the Zimbabwe Confederation of Public Sector Trade Unions. So through our initiatives, we then advocate and make submissions through our federation through to the Confederation, which then sits at the National Joint Negotiating Council in meetings. ZIMTA has been very instrumental in that we've been doing our research. Our colleagues were talking here of the pre-October 2018 salaries. Teachers had actually reached a level of around 540. And through our research, at some point, we then came up with a well-researched paper which showed that we deserved upwards of 840, and we presented that. And that became our Achilles heel in terms of presenting a position paper to government. Subsequent research papers indicated that we deserved more than 1,200. And we have been taking that through the NJNC. But what I think is the solution to this is a whole government approach where even the private sector, the high informalization that is happening, those people are brought on board because now there is no more formal industry. There is high informalization. So in terms of tax, I think government still is clueless in terms of collecting all the revenue to bring to the table, to grow the size of the cake. Because I think the cake that then we are clamoring for and wanting to share is so small that to some extent, even the salaries are delayed because government has not collected sufficient enough resources. So in our view, we think that this country is very rich. It has a lot of mines, talk about lithium, gold, platinum. In terms of agricultural land, we have it. And for the teachers themselves, there has been a lot of talk around non-monetary incentives. And this has always been a pie in the sky. We have not received this. And we think that in terms of housing, government should assist us. We know probably that salaries may not be sufficient enough to cover everything. But what about these other low-hanging things? A land is available, both rural, urban. And government has a policy where even the civil servants should not engage into business. But I think if you can't pay me, then you must allow me to be able to do business so that I can supplement. But the major issue really is that let's cover the issue around salaries, let's cover the issue around non-monetary incentives through a bipartite arrangement, and make sure that we boost the morale of the teachers. In terms of the classrooms, there is no more books in class. You recall that there has been a lot of development in terms of the curriculum. It was in updated curriculum first, a new curriculum first, updated. Now we call it the heritage-based. There has been a lot of changes over a short period of time. And I think even the learners were in a quandary to see where the direction that we were taking. So we think that it's a process, we'll get there, and government should just support it. It must finance education.
Now, you want to weigh in on some of the things that he said and address some of the concerns?
The most interesting is when he says government is clueless. All the efforts that are made by finance and maybe Zimra to collect tax are being made. Great efforts as well, including our move into strategies for formalizing the informal sector to try and get some revenue for government. We have said, when we discuss in the National Joint Negotiating Council, we have said if the trade unions have ideas on how we can grow the cake, we should be able to have those ideas on the table. And the Minister of Finance has been open enough to say, in our TNF, if there are any ideas, let's help each other. Not to believe that finance, you should do this, Zimra, you should do this. There is an effort that needs to be made by all of us as a country because we want to grow the cake. The other point he made, I agree with him. Let's just not look at salaries alone. He mentioned it, the professor. We're not talking about salaries alone. Let's look at non-monetary benefits, the housing issues. Most people get to an age of 50, 55, and they early retire without housing. And it becomes a tragedy. Government has tried to get people to get housing, and people, all of us want housing in the urban areas. You probably will not live your life, all of your life in the urban areas. Let's get assistance to even build in the rural areas. Others are doing so in their growth points. Others are having loans to build houses in their rural communities, even to buy cattle, even to buy goats. It helps when you retire. The other issue which I wanted to mention is that government had an incentive on motor vehicles. Everybody wants a vehicle, but then the tax incentive that has been given, you can import a particular cars on particular duty exemptions. It has been most welcome. It's going on very well, but because of the challenges, some people are even doing it for other people, which is not good for us. But he correctly says non-monetary benefits should be able to see us through in these difficult times in which our wages are not as competitive or as high as we expect them to be.
Now, obviously, I just want to hear from the university perspective. Do you also have non-monetary benefits that you were getting?
No. Currently, the University of Zimbabwe, we have, of course, put up a position paper also asking for such money, non-monetary incentives like to import a vehicle without having to pay duty. We are not part of that. What teachers are getting, we don't get it at the University of Zimbabwe. So it's something that probably is easy to do, but nothing is happening. We are aware, or we were told that there is a document that was once presented, or there's a recommendation that was made. We're almost getting there in 2019, but until now, nothing has happened. We also at the University of Zimbabwe, the academic staff and even non-academic, we don't have transport allowance, for example. We don't have housing allowance. We would welcome non-monetary incentives like land, which you talked about. Imagine with the expertise that you have at the University of Zimbabwe, if all of us would get probably a piece of land, maybe around Harare, what impact that would have, even in our agriculture itself or in the different projects that we can do. But at the moment, me in particular, of course, we have applied for land, gone from one place to another. There is nothing like that would ever be given. So it's something that is possible, But we think there are some individuals somewhere who don't even care about that. But of course, at the University of Zimbabwe, you'd realize that even these non-monetary incentives would be probably open to some individuals, but not to everybody. This is really an issue that is quite worrying.
Fusani, are university teachers not teachers as well? Why are they excluded when, like he said, when it comes to getting a car, for example, teachers can import a car duty-free, but they cannot do that?
Faith, every benefit that you get in your life, in your working life, you negotiate for, if there is a platform for you to do so. Everything that we get, there was no transport allowance before, he knows that. There was no housing allowance. There was no housing for teachers or for any civil servants, but we've had to fight for it, we've had to negotiate for it, and sometimes the employer opens up. But if the platform to be able to say that is not given unto you, it means you remain holding a paycheck or a pay slip, and most probably it's not as adequate as you would want. I would expect the university at their level, at their own standard, to be able to sit down and negotiate so that the employer offers what is within their means to do so. But that platform, I think, has been denied the teachers, and I think there's still room that this platform will be able to open up all the issues of non-incentives, land, and whatever all else.
Now, the one core issue that we've sat here and talked about and discussed is the issue of wages. They are not enough from what everyone has said. But now as the ministry, how are you making sure that even if they are low or if they're not really enough, are they reflecting the true cost of living?
Well, they may not reflect the true cost of living, but we believe if you have received $1 today, you don't sit and say because you are receiving $1, therefore tomorrow you won't ask for 2. I believe those who are working hard to negotiate, and the unions, that is their job, they should be able to claim for more and collectively bargain by proving through research that the amount that they are receiving is not adequate. But half the time it's a question of shouting, it's not enough, it's not enough. Most likely the employer that you are shouting has enough, but you have not been able to engage him. And we encourage this engagement. This is why you see there's a discrepancy in industries. What, for example, you get at Zim Papers may not be the same with another company that does exactly the same. And now I'm told you're also planning on having an employment council, which is a very good platform for you to negotiate for better working conditions and better wages.
Now, we're talking about better wages and better livelihoods for all workers. There are reports that employees in different sectors are now taking up side jobs. Goodwill did mention it, that they were banned from doing that at some point. This is to cushion themselves from the salaries that are really not enough for them and increase their income. But then that was banned, like you did say, SI of 2020, which banned parallel tax shops. What is your response to professionals moonlighting and taking second jobs, otherwise known as side hustles? I'll start with you, Obvious.
No, thanks very much for that question. Actually, when speaking, of course, on behalf of academics, this is something that is very difficult, or that has been very difficult for academics. We are not trained to be hustlers. We are trained to be just professionals and be where we must be. But of late, academics have been forced, some of them, to be vendors, which is something that is really not nice at all. But of course, there are also some who are taking some jobs elsewhere. I mean, we are different from teachers, for example. We cannot do extra lessons, for example. Of course, they are banned. I know they are not allowed even in the teaching profession, but we are really constrained. We don't know what exactly we must be doing, which is in line with our profession. So at the end of the day, some of our members are now into other things that have nothing to do with teaching and research at the University of Zimbabwe. You recall that there are some professors who are bringing vegetables to sell on campus. Some are bringing tomatoes, and some are selling jiggies in class, I think maybe in their offices or somewhere close to classes. And students are buying from us. And you also have some students who are, of course, who are well-to-do, students who are providing transport to their lecturers. And how will you manage that student when you are in class? There are some students who are bringing fuel coupons to their lecturers. How will you manage that student when you are in class? So we are really hard pressed. We're supposed to be just researchers, just teachers in the classes, and also involving ourselves in, of course, the research even internationally. This is also something that the university administration has always insisted on. They are saying, as professors, you are not supposed to get a salary from the university, but you are supposed to bring in money from research, grants, and the like, which is very, very good a position. But let us put that into real perspective. Whoever is giving a grant has got certain conditions. And these conditions may not really agree with your national program, national projects, or national vision. What do? This is exactly how higher and tertiary education becomes probably a haven for foreign intervention. How do you tell your academics that you don't have to get money from here? Go elsewhere and look for money. Then bring it here, then we'll share it among ourselves. It doesn't make any sense. This is actually a thrust of Education 5.0 we've had, which for many academics doesn't make a lot of sense. This is why, I mean, it's known. Research that is now coming out of this our universities, actually researches that are compromised, maybe because the one who pays controls the tune.
No, you want to weigh in on that? Okay, now I'll take it to you last.
Okay, I think I agree with my colleague. It's a real bad situation where we've also had workers being fired at the workplace because of moonlighting. They come to the offices not to work, but to hustle, using phones, using Wi-Fi from companies. It's because the wages are not enough. Imagine we have industry where people are getting 250 per month, right? Where the PDO is over $500. How is that person going to survive? It's a real serious issue.
Mm-hmm. Goodwill?
Yes, I couldn't say anything more, but I'm glad to say elsewhere where I sit, we have come up with committees that are bipartite. So we have one that we call the basic needs basket, where there's been some variances where as unions, Vusan was talking about us coming up with research. I alluded to that to say at some point research showed that we deserved 840 and 1,200. And as we continue to research, we have new findings. But I think there is need for convergence of what it is that we call a basic needs basket that we can then agree and say, let's go to the common shops. Needless to mention, shop A, shop B, shop C. What are the costs? What is the cost of sugar? What is the cost of an average rental place? What is the cost of medical insurance? What is the cost of school fees in an ordinary school, probably not the elite ones? So that at the end of the day, we zero in on a specific figure to say, we went together, we reached this 950, so against the 360 that you give to Mr. Tadelera, where are we? So we have been doing all this research, and it is not good for us to be moonlighting in class, because we shortchange the learners and so the parents. I'm speaking on behalf of the teachers. We have what we call handbag tuck shops in classrooms. You go into a classroom, a teacher is busy calling someone because they have a side hustle. They want to find out whether their clothing shop is doing well or the worker has arrived at work and stuff. That shortchanges the clients that we must have. So the basic need that needs to be done, that addresses everything and brings everything into the groove, is an adequate salary. And of course, we were saying if there is not enough salary, why can't we look at the other non-monetary incentives as we try to incrementally reach the target of an agreed basic needs basket?
Now, moonlighting, how does the ministry see it?
Well, it's happening a lot. Others are doing so openly, others are hiding it. But we understand under difficult conditions, some people will do that. However, the basic aim of government is to grow the economy, stabilize the economy. When we do that, we are able to have a share of the cake for everyone. But the aim is not to destroy what we already have, no matter how small it is. The aim is to be able to say, what is the size of the employer's pocket? And from that, what is it that we can have a share? But if the workers do not get a platform, and I keep saying it because it's something that is very crucial, if they don't get a platform to be able to say what their challenges are, even if you believe they are known, it's not healthy. It is important that you create a framework, you put up a platform where people can talk and discuss about their problems. Good employers with deeper pockets can be able to pay more, and it's not anything wrong. Those who are smaller and cannot pay, they seek for an exemption. And this is something that we do every day. We try and assist workers to be able to collectively bargaining, looking deep into the pockets of their employers. Some employers may have deep pockets but may not be too willing to give. And there are ways of negotiating, ways of discussion, ways of finding ways of arm twisting employers to be able to persuade them to come to the table and negotiate a fair and a good wage.
Goodwill?
Yes. Platforms. Vusan talks about platforms. We have indeed platforms. But unfortunately, probably because of the differences in the labor laws that govern us, the employer holds the bigger end of the stick. We have always agreed that we must negotiate quotas. And just as each and every quarter gets closer, we write letters, numerous letters. My colleague was talking about numerous letters, 20-something, and responding to one, probably in their sector. But we have also done the same. But because probably the government thinks at that point in time, or the employer thinks at that point in time, they don't have sufficient resources, they don't call us. And we keep on shouting, as if we are dogs barking at an aeroplane that is passing by. And they don't call us. And I think something has to be done around the labor laws so that we all have laws that are favorable to all of us, so that the laws are not skewed towards one side. Sometimes we even think that it is crucial for the employers to even call us to the platform that they have created, to just have a discussion, a conversation to say, ladies and gentlemen, what we have is this. Or maybe at this moment in time, we have had drought. We are trying to look at the social issues to cover up this and that. Can we not do this or go to that extent? But for our employers, not to call us at all, when the platforms are there, I think it's a travesty of justice on our part.
You want to weigh in?
No, thanks very much. Yes, I really envy my colleagues here. We have got platforms where they can negotiate. At the University of Zimbabwe, there is no such platform for collective bargaining, for example. We have asked the employer that we need to sit down and discuss our salaries. That we don't discuss the salaries at the University of Zimbabwe. We don't know what the University of Zimbabwe receives from anywhere, and we don't negotiate. The responsible authority, the authorities there will just decide one day to give you, probably if they want to give some incentive of $20, they just throw something into your pocket. And would you explain, that at the University of Zimbabwe, an association of university teachers, for example, a registered trade union from 2012, we don't have an office at the University of Zimbabwe. We are deprived even space to operate from. Sometimes we are deprived space even to do our meetings. The university would just send its security guards to chase you away from a meeting of a trade union. So at the end of the day, there is no platform at the University of Zimbabwe to discuss any issues to do with what we have, or our salaries and our conditions. We have written numerous letters asking for this space, and it's not provided. And there is really serious arrogance on the part of the employer.
Now, gentlemen, we're left with almost 2 minutes to the program before we conclude, but we're talking about labor laws. And for the trade unions side of you, we've had people complaining about underpayment, excessive working hours, unsafe working conditions, and all that. Are you advocating for the stoppage of these things?
Yes, that's our daily work, advocating for that. Even the new Labour Act, which is now in place, we have been trying to make sure that we close those loopholes. I wanted to come in on the issues of the wages and say, we also have been trying to force the government to come up with a minimum wage. Some countries have a minimum wage, so that no one in the country gets anything less than that. If we are able to agree on a better minimum wage, I think we have gone a long way in trying to solve some of these issues.
Now, in a few words, your parting shot, it is Workers' Day after all. A parting shot to workers, I want just everyone to say something. Okay. In the minute 30 that we do have left, I'll start here.
The problems that we have between labor and business or employers and indeed government are problems that are normal within any working environment. We hope all the systems that we put in place, the institutions that we create, are designed to help to smoothen that relationship, to create harmony. And we hope that will prevail in our country.
Goodwill?
Thank you.
Yes, I want to applaud the steps that we have taken in a bipartite arrangement, where we have made strides in terms of establishing the collective bargaining council. We have had numerous workshops, and under the Minister of Education have also been looking at the legislation to do with the Teaching Service Professions Council. What we only wish is that all those things we get to realize them.
Mm-hmm. Obvious?
Just to say, we are inviting all workers to come tomorrow to the Orasewa Stadium. We've invited the Minister of Labour. I hope you'll pitch up. And we've also about 14 centers around the country where we are going to celebrate the Workers' Day. So please come and hear what the minister is going to say.
I'm sorry, I mixed up your names. I did say obviously instead of last time.
No, it's okay. Workers of the world, workers must really unite and struggle on. Fight until the demands are realized, and that is what we are doing at the University of Zimbabwe. We will continue to fight until we realize 2,250 into our pockets, and when we have computers, cell phones, and data, we shall continue to fight.
Well, it is the 2025 edition of the Workers' Day program on The Chase right here on ZTN Prime. Thank you so much for joining us. I would like to thank my guests, Director of Labour, Ministry of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare, Vusani. Thank you so much for coming through. Last Sharabuku, Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions, ZCTU. Goodwill Taderera, Secretary General, Zimbabwe Teachers Association, ZIMTA. And Obvious Vengai, Spokesperson, Association of University Teachers. Gentlemen, thank you once again.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
I have been your host, Faith Nyaude. Good evening and pleasant viewing.
It's moving time. It's movie time. Trailers. Moving trailers. Movie trailers. Oh, Pickles, you get the point. Trailers that are moving. Welcome to Cinema Buzz, where we keep you up to date with the hottest flicks. So what's the buzz? Let's go. Weak layers. After getting evicted, three party-loving best friends set out to